Hello and welcome back to coverage here at Grand Prix Omaha. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Luis Scott Vargas, and we are ready for round number 7 here on day 1. Matt Nass, which is actually Matt Nass. He's playing against Steven Dykman here.
And Matt's on a black-green Constrictor deck. He chose it.
That's what he's playing?
Yeah, both him and
maybe it is Matt Nass.
both him and Sam Party even decided to run that, despite Marvel being kind of the de facto best choice.
Mm-hmm.
They liked that the matchup well enough, and playing against black-green, but a much higher curve version of black-green that has 4 copies of Aetherworks Marvel. This actually looks like the Sultai deck that Pantheon played at the Pro Tour.
That is what it is, indeed. A couple of Demon of
Duke
Dark
left too early
in there. Yeah, yes, apparently so. He would be an expert here, wouldn't he? Play tested and play that deck. What did you play at the Pro Tour?
I played the part of the color commentary. 2 varying degrees of success. I think I had a good win.
I think you had like a top 8 level finish. Now we see 2 very similar cards cast on the early turns here by these 2 players. One of them traversed the Ulvenwald, which is much more powerful in the late game compared to Attune with Aether. But in these energy decks, Attune with Aether is a very, very important piece of the puzzle. Ooh, Rishkar here for Matt Nass, and he's got a nice little attacker here. A 2/2 Walking Ballista is going to get in.
So this puts 5 points of power on the board for Matt Nass, and a relatively fast start. He doesn't quite know what he's playing against yet, but once you see Blooming Marsh, Attune, and Island, and Vessel, I think that Matt is familiar enough with the deck lists that people play in general to assume that he's playing against that Sultai Marvel deck here.
Looks like he's going to go for another Attune with Aether here, Luis.
So Steven not really developing his board a whole lot here, but he is charging up the energy stores. So an Aetherworks Marvel might be on deck fairly soon. And even if Steven doesn't have another play here, he's going to be able to activate Vessel of Nascency. So he is getting to look at a lot of cards, even though he's not actually doing anything.
It looks like he's got a Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot.
And that will set up, because he does have a Marvel in hand. So we're going to see a Marvel getting spun next turn, more likely than not.
I wonder if Matt has the ability to deal with the Marvel, assuming that it doesn't hit an Ulamog.
Matt does have 3 copies of Dissenter's Deliverance in his deck, so if Ulamog doesn't get hit, then it's possible.
But this turn, Matt decides that his best use of mana is just to go ahead and put a counter on the Walking Ballista and attack for 6, and he just says, do your worst. He's got to know it's coming.
Yeah, playing Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot instead of using Vessel of Nascency is, I think, a fairly good sign that a Marvel's coming.
Yeah, Matt will not be surprised to see this. Steven, on the other hand, keeping us in a bit of suspense. But has decided, I think I'm going to play a land and go ahead and play my Aetherworks Marvel here. Not a controversial standpoint here from Steven, and the question is when? When do you want to activate that thing and see what you get?
So by activating it now, Steven has the ability to use a Planeswalker. He's got Liliana Death's Majesty in his deck. But by activating it during combat, he could potentially tempt Matt Nass into attacking into a larger creature, that something like Demon of Dark Schemes, which Steven has 2 of. And currently the -2/-2 effect won't kill either of Matt Nass's creatures, so that gives Steven incentive to wait. Also, if Steven hits Ulamog, then it doesn't matter when he activated it, because Ulamog will likely be enough.
All right, here we go. Steven's going to see what he hits off of his Aetherworks Marvel. And this could be a game ender. Matt just has to kind of take his medicine here. Oh, he's got one more, right?
One more.
And he missed.
So he can hit a Rogue Refiner or a Fatal Push are his relevant options. Servant of the Conduit is essentially just a worse version of those.
Push does take care of that Walking Ballista.
That is nice. Rogue Refiner does make Matt Nass use two copies of 2 counters off of the Walking Ballista in order to prevent Rogue Refiner from trading with the Rishkar. So now, and Matt has a decision. He also may have Fatal Push in hand, which would be why he's sacking Evolving Wilds here.
Matt might, yeah, he does. Steven remembers that he gets to trigger an extra energy from his Aetherworks Marvel when his Rogue Refiner goes to the graveyard.
Matt doing a pretty good job of upping the pressure. Unfortunately for Matt, he does not have that Dissenter's Deliverance in hand, so Steven is going to get another chance to use Marvel thanks to Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot.
Yeah, that's going to make things tough. He dodged that first activation, but...
You can't fight the tide forever.
No.
Eventually Marvel does hit something, though each turn it gets more and more important. Steven can't easily afford another near miss, because hitting Rogue Refiner was not particularly impressive. Steven close to Delirium, but not quite there for Ishkana in hand.
Even Ishkana on her own doesn't look terrible. At least blocks Rishkar. And maybe just prevents the attack full stop. Though those spiders certainly do end up being valuable as the game goes along.
Steven has a lot of pretty solid hits. Demon of Darkskins, Yahenni's Expertise, all cards that look pretty good. And thanks to the life off of Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, Steven will survive another turn, even if he'll go to a pretty low life total.
Doesn't seem to have been too many decisions here for Matt Nass. He's just kind of had to sit there with his arms folded and watch what Steven does for the majority of this game. And what Steven's going to do is sacrifice that Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, getting him up to 9 energy and meaning. He's ready to go with that Aetherworks Marvel. And like you said, you can't fight the tide forever, man. It's going to get you at one point or another. Looks like Steven, though, once again is going to prefer to just pass the turn and perhaps lure Matt into attacking where he can get him.
Matt's hand is surprisingly bad. Is 3 lands and a Fatal Push.
Ooh.
So he has not drawn a lot of spells this game. Which puts him in a position where he just doesn't have that much to do. He's just got to hope that this Walking Ballista and this Rishkar do the job, because he does not have a lot of backup. There's no second wave of attackers here.
And once again, Matt just feels like can't play around it. So he's going to send in both of his creatures, but before blocks are declared, we are going to see what Steven finds. 4 cards in, still hasn't hit that Ulamog here on this second spin. No. He missed again.
Yeah, and Tireless Tracker might be the best that Steven can come up with. Once again, Matt Nass is going to be able to use the Evolving Wilds Fatal Push combo, pump the Ballista, hit for 7, put Steven to 5, and then have a Ballista with 4 counters on it.
So close.
It's actually getting very, very close here.
Like, what if Matt draws Whining Constrictor?
Yeah, that would be
Play it, activate,
additional counters.
2 counters. So close. Yeah, and that was, in fact, the best he could do. And this is Matt signaling, got another one of these. Fatal push your tireless tracker. And since Steven chose to do this on Matt's attack step here, he doesn't have a chance to play a land and get a clue out of the deal either. So he's just going to lose his tracker straight up.
Follow the tracks right off a cliff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was nudged in that direction, to be fair. But, yeah, it looks like Steven's going to have to just take this damage. And let's add one more to it. Matt says, I'd like to add a counter to this. Take 7. God, he's got him to 1, doesn't he?
Effective 1.
And this is Steven sacrificing his vessel of nascency. How many Ulamogs in this pile? Yeah, we got 1 so far. You gonna hit another? So close. He was 1 card away, Luis.
Oh yeah, the Marvel hitting 6 instead of 7 does change things. Steven's going to get another look at the Marvel here, but he does need something to deal with Ulamog or deal with a Walking Ballista rather, since there aren't very many cards in Steven's deck that can actually kill Walking Ballista.
Yeah, all Matt needs to do is untap here, right, and be able to put a counter on.
Fatal Push is one such card.
That wasn't it.
Matt, all of Matt's hopes and dreams rest on the shoulders of this Ballista. And Steven has tons of cards in hand, so he's definitely going to be ahead on cards here.
Does he have stuff to do? Because, like, I'm looking at it, like, let's say Steven just goes Fatal Push your Walking Ballista. Matt says, okay, you go to 1. He still needs a blocker for Rishkar.
Well, Steven does have a Noxious Gearhulk in hand.
Okay. And that can also help bolster his life total, can't it?
It can. He can target the Ballista if he wants, but he won't get any life off that. Targeting Rishkar puts him to 8 and means that he won't die to Walking Ballista anytime soon, though he will eventually need to find an answer to it.
But this does mean that if Matt has a removal spell for the Gear Hulk,
then Steven dies.
he wins the game.
There aren't very many removal spells that can actually hit the Gearhulk.
Really
Matthias has 2 Never to Returns in his deck. And that would do it. Though Matthias also has 3 copies of Dissenter's Deliverance, which can kill the Gearhulk.
Yeah, I can.
Steven still has a Aetherworks Marvel with 6 counters or 6 energies, so there's a pretty good chance he's able to spin into a blocker, even if it's not, something gigantic.
Kyle Meckler and Sean Clark, can you please report to the Red Gathering Point? Your draft number 18 is waiting on you. Kyle Meckler and Sean
Steven deciding once again to not Marvel on his turn. Or not.
Oh, he's going for it, looks like. Is that the demon that I saw there?
It is.
Ulamog refusing to get hit by a Marvel, but he did hit some nice options there, did he not?
He did. Woodweaver's Puzzle Note's actually not too bad. Demon of Dark Schemes isn't terrible. Noting that the Sultai deck only has 2 copies of Ulamog, and one's already gone. So
It only has 2.
So Steven's not as likely to
Right.
hit Ulamog as he would be against other as the Temur Marvel decks.
That max out. So Steven's still very much alive here. What did Matt find? Nothing. Passes the turn back after putting a counter on the Ballista. Gosh, he's so close.
He was so close. I think he's becoming significantly less close, though. Dissenter's Deliverance out of Steven's deck offers him another way to kill that Walking Ballista.
Oh, Steven drew his own Dissenter's Deliverance. Yeah, Matt was hoping to find that for himself.
And Steven might actually be getting to the point where he can start doing some attacks here. So Nass has to decide now whether he's actually going to be able to burn Steven out. And looks like he is going for it. He's not killing Noxious Gearhulk. He's just sending all of the ballista shots at Steven's face.
So what's his game plan here? He's got Steven down to 6. But Steven still has the Woodweaver's puzzle knot. It's hard to imagine Matt can get through for 9 damage starting from nothing. Oh boy, yeah, this one's really slipped away from Matt. Steven had to sweat a little bit a few times there and never really hit the devastating blow off of the Aetherworks Marvel, but he certainly hit enough. Because we're, of course, looking for the big hitters, the demons and the Ulamogs, but we have to remember that he's effectively drawing and casting a spell extra whenever he does that, and that does just incrementally get him ahead no matter what he hits.
It does, and you know, the net result of that is Steven is very far ahead, and Matt was really kind of all in on that ballista, trying to take out Steven's life total. But Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, just such a key piece of all of these Marvel decks.
How annoying, right? If Matt got so close, and you know Steven's gained whatever 6-12 life this game. Noxious Gearhulk has Menace, so it will not be able to be blocked here by the Kalitas, at least on his own.
Haven't seen Kalitas for quite some time.
Yeah, where you been?
Falling out of favor, I think, given the texture of the current metagame. Matt Nass is playing it likely because of Traverse the Ovenwald. Looks like another ballista here.
Oh boy. This is a 4/4.
Still seems unlikely that he's going to be able to actually burn Steven out here.
It does feel like that. Oh! And he finally hit the Ulamog, though it feels like that was kind of when the game was more or less over anyway, and Matt's going to pack him up. So that is going to be game 1 going to Steven Dykman. We're going to be back with more after these messages. Grand Prix Omaha. Luis, as our players finish shuffling up and getting ready to play, I've got a little bit of an update for you. You know, there's a couple of other GPs happening this weekend as well around the world. There's one in Manila and one in Amsterdam. Amsterdam had 1,170 players playing standard, of course, as well. And there are 5 undefeated players to emerge on day one. We had Allard Steingraf on red-green gods. Peter Sahurek, he's playing 4-color vehicles. Michael Marusi is on Esper Aggro. Thomas Hendricks, Black-Green Delirium. And Samuel Vio is on 4-color vehicles. Notice anything missing there, buddy?
Looks like Etherworks Marvel, I suppose, would be the answer to that question.
Yeah, Ofer. No undefeated Etherworks Marvels on day one from Amsterdam. That's perhaps a ray of sunlight there. You can check out the coverage on the Wizards of the Coast page, on the coverage page there for Amsterdam if you want to get caught up. And they're going to be back live at 9 a.m. local time in Amsterdam. That's 2 a.m. here where we are.
I'll be watching it.
You were going to be sleeping. And, of course, we'll pick up coverage here from Omaha. Once they're done, they kind of hand over the stream to us once they're finished. And they're going to be handing out a trophy over there before it comes back to us to do the same here in Omaha tomorrow. So interesting stuff. All this talk about Marvel, none of them undefeated in Amsterdam. See how our day finishes up here. We're in round number 7. We're playing 9 rounds of Swiss today, so a couple more rounds to go after this, and then we'll know. But in the meantime, we've got Black-Green Constrictor in the hands of Matt Nass. He's down a game to Steven, who's on Sultai Marvel, a deck that we saw a bit of at the Pro Tours, falling out of favor a fair bit, but Steven's still sticking with it, it looks like. Maybe it's good again.
Curious whether Reed would have played that this weekend.
We should ask him.
Had he not been in the booth.
Yeah, we should ask him. I'm curious too. What did he end up playing at the GP in Montreal? He did go to that.
He played Etherworks Marvel, just the Temur
version. Okay. You can see Traverse the Olvenwald here on the screen, and it's a super interesting interaction that we have when we have Traverse the Olvenwald and Attune with Ether, as you can really sort of compare and contrast. See Owen Turnwald walking by already, though. He looked kind of happy, but he also had a coffee, so it could have been related to that.
Coffee is proven to make people happy. That's just science.
Short term, yeah. A lot of things do that. All right, well, Grimflayer for Matt Nass, a good start from him, and he'll be happy to know, though he won't know at least as of now, that Steven actually has an Ulamog stuck in hand, which is always good news for the aggressor.
If Matt Nass finds that out, that's usually a bad sign, because that means the Ulamog's getting cast. Though I suppose post-board Transgress the Mind could give him a peek.
Dispossess? Matt's going to just offer the trade up for the Servant of the Conduit, and Steven cannot trade quickly enough. Matt's follow-up play is a Whining Constrictor. Why did Matt trade there?
He's not very close to hitting Delirium, and giving Steve an accelerant is potentially risky.
Okay. The cards, as they sat on the battlefield, would benefit Steve in the short term a lot more than Matt. So
especially if that Grimflayer isn't doing anything.
Yeah. Well, both players kind of doing what they want. Steven Dykman here has Etherworks Marvel on the battlefield. He's only got 5 energy, so he will need to find an additional, but his deck is very, very adept at doing so, so that shouldn't be an issue. Matt, with the Whining Constrictor, he's just chipping in for 2, though. He's going to need to do something more than that if he's going to win this second game. Going to play a Nissa.
Powerful combo with Whining Constrictor once he used Nissa's -2, which Matt is setting up for next turn.
And there's that energy that we just talked about. This coming by way of Servant of the Conduit. So, this could be a quick one, Luis. Aetherworks Marvel, the pump is primed, and Steven is ready to go at 7 energy. Here we go. No. Not really. No. That's not it. Oh! What was that last card? Oh, it was a never to return. Okay.
Well, that can take out Nissa or Winding Constrictor.
You know, it could take out the plant.
It could also take out the plant.
Well, you didn't say that, so.
That is technically one of the options. Well, Magic, there are many, many, many options every single turn, but you can cut off, 90% of them already just like lightning bolting your own face sort of options.
Yeah, like you didn't mention that it could kill the Servant of the Conduit.
I also did not mention that.
I figure you just missed it, but Tireless Tracker is what Steven ended up going with, as he did have a land in hand, as you see, and he's going to get a clue token out of it as well.
Clues plus Aetherworks Marvel, the hard way.
Yeah, but you get to draw cards doing it that way. It's a little slower, perhaps. Walking Ballista, but Steven's going to say, hold on just 1 second, please. Sacrifice a clue, get a counter, draw a card. Now you may have your Walking Ballista. You can see why Steven wanted to do that.
Yeah, he didn't want the Tireless Tracker to be vulnerable to Walking Ballista. Though, thanks to Nissa's -2 and Winding Constrictor, it still will end up being within range. So now Matt Nass has quite the squad.
Yeah, he does. That was a nice turn. The 1-2 punch last turn, Nissa. This turn, play creature minus Nissa. With Steven having really no pressure means that even the plant token is going to get the bonus. And Matt's going to need to start getting in. Steven's already at 3 energy, halfway back to activating that Aetherworks Marvel yet again. And I'll tell you what, Luis, the decision by Steven not to use Never to Return on the Nissa has really come back to bite him here. He didn't know about the Walking Ballista, but that was certainly a card that was possible for Matt Nass. And now look at this board. He doesn't have the Tireless Tracker that he went and got anyway. And he's going to get absolutely ran over if he doesn't do something major and quickly.
Well, Noxious Gearhulk's a good start.
Right, that's a good one. Yeah, I think that Matt was pretty well set up there, but Noxious Gearhulk definitely throws a wrench in the works. I love that card.
It is a sweet card.
It is so sweet. What if it costed 5?
That card would see a lot of play if it cost 5.
In standard?
I think 6 is a good amount for it.
Do you think 6 would be a good amount for Verdurous Gearhulk?
My guess is Verdurous Gearhulk doesn't quite get there on 6.
Okay.
Here's the equivalent to Noxious Gearhulk, Guilt Leaf Winnower. Very close, actually.
It's kind of my 5-mana Gearhulk, isn't it? Never is going to take down the Gearhulk and clear the way for an attack with these 2 creatures.
Unfortunately for Matt Nass, Steven's still at an incredibly high life total and is gearing up for another marble spin. So Matt has not been able to pressure him all that well, even though he's got a decent board set up.
Manglehorn here from Steven Dykman is going to take care of the Walking Ballista. Are those both Ulamogs in hand there from Steven?
Looks like he might have picked up a matching pair here.
Yeah.
The good thing is Marvel can, if he keeps finding him more and more cards and resources, he can draw out the game long enough to where he potentially could just start hard casting Ulamogs. Then my guess is he'd only need to cast one before the game was over.
Matt Nass looks like he's casting Return from his graveyard for its aftermath cost. Or is that not what he did? It's on the stack?
I believe so.
Okay. Let's see what Steven hits with this particular activation. Like you said, he's just looking to grind at this point. Matt has not had two particularly great draws. They're fine, but they haven't really shown the explosiveness that this deck can do. Though winding Constrictor into Nissa, make a plant, next turn play a creature minus Nissa is, which is what Matt got to do here. Very, very powerful, no doubt about it. Aetherworks Marvel number 2 comes down for Steven, which is going to force him to sacrifice one of them thanks to the legend rule.
Not quite enough to respin the Marvel this turn, though.
It's not going to take much, is it? And it looks like Matt's setting up to go even wider here. He just keeps plussing this, huh?
Well, for the first time, Steven's actually just out of cards to play. He's got 2 Ulamogs in hand. He can play another land, but other than that, he's just kind of watching Matt Nass enact his game plan, which is going to be tough for Steven to beat if he's not doing anything.
So what is Matt's game plan from this juncture?
Just continue going wide and try to Nissa for as many counters as possible. Eventually start attacking here.
Now, what do you think about this, though? Steven sees the writing on the wall, doesn't like where it's going, so he's actually going to just send in creatures at Nissa here and end up actually just trading off both of them. Does this work out for Steven in the long run? And by the way, by trading off, the Manglehorn actually got eaten by that plant. The other one was a trade.
He didn't play his land. With 2 Ulamogs in hand, it seems that seems a bit aggressive.
He may have forgotten. That's a funny word to use for not playing a land. Real aggro.
Well, transgress essentially doing nothing here because the second Ulamog is not really particularly relevant. But
well, maybe it's just setting up the next Transgress the Mind.
It does set up the next Transgress the Mind quite nicely. It also lets Matt Nass know that the game is his to dictate.
Yeah, at least for the time being.
Until Steven draws another action card here.
Steven's going to kick himself if he draws a bunch of lands in a row. More plants?
I think Matt Nass is moving in here.
Going the other way. Attack for 5.
Matt Nass still operating on just 4 lands here.
Seems pretty content to do that. He does have 4 copies of Transgress the Mind in his sideboard, and we've only seen the one. If he could find the next one in the next few turns, he could shut off that game plan, though. He actually may be able to just win the game before that happens anyway. That being Ulamog being cast from hand.
Yeah, he's got Steven on a 2-turn clock here. Winding Constrictor also a potentially good threat.
Found a Servant of the Conduit, Luis.
A nice draw, especially with that Marvel there.
Yeah, I can't quite see how much energy he's actually got left. It's just off camera. But it requires 2 dice.
Maybe he has one on 2 and 1 on 1.
Do people do that sometimes? But probably not. I'm going to assume he's on 7.
Modern 6 to the red gathering point. Modern 6 to the red gathering point.
I thought it was a little more fun when we didn't know exactly what energy he had. Like, what's the fun of just knowing things?
Rashad says, I can have him push it back out if you want. We don't really want that, do we?
We don't.
All right, we'll tell Rashad no thanks.
Matt Nass with unfortunately useless Dispossess in hand. Once the Marvel hits the field, it's a little less good.
Ooh. Ishkana. Where you been lately, Ishkana?
I'm going to assume Delirium here.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3,
yeah.
4. Yep, there we go. Get a trigger there. And then it looks like Steven's done with his turn after that. But that is going to be very difficult for Matt to punch through. Like, how does he get through big gummed up boards like this? It's not like he has flyers or...
Another Nissa, could, especially with that Winding Constrictor, could make it so Matt Nass has enough threats that he can punch through. This creature's just gigantic. And he can still already attack with his plants and just kind of settle for a mediocre trade, but overall taking down a lot of Steven's creatures here. Fortunately, that's just going to give Steven more ammunition for Marvel next turn.
Assuming that there was something existed like a bar on
That
which
shows
to
an advantage.
show advantage, where would you have it right now?
I actually think it's pretty close because Steven is behind on board now, but
Okay.
thanks to Marvel, he just threatens to get something going pretty much any turn.
Remember when we tried this? Remember when I tried this?
This is Grand Prix San Diego a couple years ago.
That's a good idea. I should try that. I'll tell Luis we'll do it in the booth. It'll be cool.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well, I thought. I don't see why I would have a problem with such a good concept.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well, the advantage bar is firmly in Steven's camp now. Drawing Fatal Push for that Winding Constrictor, having a bunch of chump blockers, still does not want to play that land.
It's just glued to his hand.
Means that
Never
it's
let
gonna be
go.
hard for Matt to kill Steven, and that Marvel is just going to keep generating value.
Matt even knows that he has that land because he saw it with Transgress, but Steven's just like, no. Me and this land are winning this game, and it's staying in my hand. And it does look like it's going to work, by the way.
Wow, Matt is running Dispossess here. Naming Noxious Gearhulk, maybe? Aetherworks Marvel? All right.
He missed.
3 mana, look at your opponent's hand and library, they shuffle.
Not in love with it.
I guess that's pretty close to what that card ends up doing a lot of games, regardless of whether they have Marvel in hand or not.
Oh, man.
And Steven choosing not to use that Fatal Push quite yet.
Two-headed giant players. Your pairings are now going up. 2 p.m. Two-headed giant players. Your pairings are now being posted.
So that land did get played. Blooming Marsh has hit the battlefield.
Maybe he was holding it for like a tireless tracker or something like that.
Tireless tracker is a good reason to hold it.
Yeah, but he has Ulamog in his hand.
Yes, I think it is compelling to cast. So Matt Nass knows that despite having Winding Constrictor in play, the Nissa -2 play is not going to be quite as effective thanks to that fatal push that Steven is playing with.
Yeah, you can see it still sitting face up there. Steven showing Matt the cards that Matt knows about, which is kind of a courtesy. You know, he's got one card face down there that, of course, he doesn't know about.
After all that, now here's the tireless tracker.
You can't win either way, can you? He holds it in his hand. We tease him. He plays it. He draws the tracker. It's like, you'll get used to it, Steven. You can't win either way with us, I'll tell you that. We are tireless. Ooh, Vergis Gearhulk here for Matt Nass. Now, this is going to prompt that fatal push, I would assume. But still, Gearhulk's plenty powerful on its own.
And Matt Nass, part of the reason to max out the Gearhulk there
He
is
did just put all 4 on the Gearhulk,
He did.
didn't he? Yeah.
and then minus Nissa, is that he just wants to assemble the biggest trampler possible.
Well, he assembled a pretty darn nice one. Oh, but Manglehorn destroying the Gearhulk.
Wow.
Ouch.
Manglehorn is a good sideboard option for Steven here
Whew.
against a deck with the Walking Ballistas and Gearhulks, and wow, that was a good play.
Wow, Steven really putting it to Matt Nass with that Manglehorn. Matt actually looked like he had a really nice threat going there.
Yeah,
9/9 Trampler?
And now Steven's just going to be able to chump, tick up Marvel, and get closer and closer to just casting that Ulamog.
You know, I got to say also of note here, Luis, the pace of play here has been reasonable, but these games have been long. And we're sitting at about 6 minutes left here in game 2. Even if Matt were to pull this one out, it could be really hard for him to win a third game.
At this rate, it seems unlikely that they'd be able to finish a third game.
Yeah.
Because this game's got, at the very least, another couple minutes. It's hard to imagine Matt winning this game in, a minute.
Right. And like I said, they've been playing at a fine pace, but these games have ground out. I mean, look, multiple Aetherworks Marvel activations, lots of interactions, transactions between cards here, and it just took them a while.
Your next hearings are up by the blue scatter point. GP players, that is time. Active player finish the turn. Begin first to 5 turns. GP player time.
There's a servant of the conduit now for Steven, which could actually be relevant as a mana producer, getting him even closer to casting Ulamog, which probably just ends the game on the spot.
Does double duty, actually, because it also lets Steven Marvel here.
All right. Yeah, he's at 8 mana, including that servant, so just a couple of turns away, perhaps. Well, never for Matt Nass, though. What is he targeting? The tracker?
Yeah, pretty hard not to go after Tireless Tracker there.
Yeah. It's going to get him a zombie. He's going to flash it back, or I should say, hey, it's aftermath cost. I usually shortcut it and just say flashback because I played some sets with that mechanic. But aftermath is different. You can only cast it from your graveyard. And it has a cool name. Take a look at Never to Return. Whoa. Easy there, never to return. Respect the boundaries that we've put you in. All right, this is another Aetherworks Marvel activation. Now, we know we can't hit Ulamog. One of them's been exiled and one of them's in hand, but there's still plenty of powerful spells for him. And there's one of them right now, an Ishkana. And that just seems to be...
We might not even finish this game.
Yeah. But either way, whether Ishkana seals the deal or whether the clock seals the deal, that's not good news for Matt Nass. Steven being up a game will win the match if it goes to time. Looks like Kalitas is going to get removed. I didn't see by what? Oh, fatal push? Okay.
And that sets up a pretty big triple block here on the plant.
Ah. No, back down to 7 lands here for Steven. Oh, he's got his own copy of Kalitas now.
Facing down all tokens, funnily enough.
Yeah. Matt's got about 2 minutes here to win this, and that's just to try to secure a draw. Tireless Tracker, although it looks like Matt may be firing up a Hissing Quagmire here.
Yeah, we're looking at a Nass activation for sure.
Okay. And an attack, or are we still not to that point yet? We're not to that point yet. He activated Nissa, grabs a handful of dice, and says, I'd like one of these for each of my creatures. Thank you. Now you may go. Well, that's 6 in the middle of the battlefield. That's not doing anything. All right, well, this will work too. Obnixilis off the top, Luis. Is Matt going to be able to steal this one? He has assembled a heck of a board here.
He has, but again, the more threatening he does to Steven's side of the board, the closer he gets to spinning the Marvel. But Marvel kind of out of gas right now.
Yeah,
and Obnixilis taking out Kalitas could give Matt the opportunity to make some nice attacks.
Matt's scrapping for a draw here, just doing everything he can.
Yeah, at this point, the win is off the table, but draw is something Matt can achieve.
Yeah.
6 DP rebound, 5 DP rebound. Your parents are going up.
Minus and then attack with everything. And Matt seems to think that it's lethal because his body language said, I got you, kind of, right? He's like,
it is lethal if Steven doesn't have anything.
And he did. Matt actually won that game. Wow. It did not look good for him down the stretch. It is sad that this one ended up taking a while because I would have loved to see how this thing ends up if it went to the full 3 games, but we're going to have to settle for a draw for this one,
That's
Luis.
what it looks like.
Yeah. I saw the players shake hands over it, kind of saying, well, with 10 seconds left and sideboarding to do, it's not going to happen. So doesn't feel good. But we did get to see some cool stuff there down the stretch. We'll be back with more Magic here from Omaha after these messages.